The conversation begins when you get that first acceptance. At that point, you have to start thinking to yourself, okay, how do I actually pay for this?
And I think a lot of admitted students get very worried to ask because they think it's going to make me look bad.
There's no harm in asking.
Once you've been accepted, they want you to come.
I do find that there are other channels that people don't even consider. Be in touch with the financial aid office. Ask them questions.
I think a lot of applicants overlook how their employers can help them also. Is there any scholarship that you can give to me to, secure that position, and I'll come back and I'll work for 1-2 years?
And then if you want to do a startup, or then if you want to do something else, there's a degree of flexibility that you would not have had if you had not gone back to that firm.
With a little tenacity, you can make a significant difference in your ultimate bill.
On today's episode of the mbaMission podcast, we're joined by the one and only Rachel Beck, who has helped thousands of domestic and international applicants over the past 15 years. She is a CBS grad with a journalism background and truly an expert in the industry. Today, we'll be talking about merit scholarships, financial aid, and how you can actually finance your education.
So thanks for being here, Harold, as always, and thanks for joining us, Rachel Beck.
Jeremy, thanks for being a host on my podcast.
Yes, I always enjoy joining you on your podcast. Funny thing, so I'm talking to a client the other day, and he said to me, I kind of just thought your job was podcasting. Like I didn't realize that, a Rachel or a Harold or a Jessica or a Gavi or anyone else who's been on the podcast is actually taking clients. Like they said that there's some sort of, he noted some study that said that people who do media are like perceived to be kind of like distant and untouchable, like celebrities, dare I say. And so I'm just putting the word out right now that Harold Simansky is an actual consultant. He's not people have accused me of being AI, which I'm not. And I think people think that you're like media or you're media, but we are in fact a team of consultants.
You can give us a call, go to our website, and you can arrange for a 30-minute free consultation with me,
right,
with Rachel, with Jessica, with Gavi,
with any other member of our team. You can go to our site and you can evaluate every member of our team and decide who you want to have that conversation with based on their biographies and your personal preferences. So throwing that out there now, I might mention on another podcast or two so the word gets out that people can actually work with you.
That's right. That's right. And that's what I enjoy.
Want to.
Yeah, exactly. They should want to. And that's what I enjoy doing too. I mean, listen, I'm built for podcasting, as we can all agree.
That's great. Okay, let's get to today's topic. Today, we're talking about merit scholarships and financial aid. I guess we can sort of break it down into categories. The first category, I would say, is just kind of the package you get from the school. Like the most basic is you got in, here's your money. Okay.
Or how about you got in, how am I going to pay for this?
Right. Okay.
I would say that's the place that most people actually start because there's like all this excitement about the application process and I really want to go to these schools and I've got my acceptances in hand. And then the next question that you have to ask yourself is, can I afford this? Which probably should have been a question you asked at the beginning of the process, long before you took the GMAT or the GRE or the EA. But I find that a lot of people get to that borderline panic stage after they are in and it's real. Right, for sure. Yeah, you got applicants who I think it seems like a dream, a goal, and then once you get in, I think the psychology is this is the road to riches. And so if I just get this MBA, I'll make this big leap in my career. And then it's like, oh, wait, there is a period where I have to pay for this. And so you get your application, and then most people who are going to get a scholarship are going to get it with their acceptance. And for a lot of people, that's like kind of it. That's where it ends. And that number, whether you're getting it, whether it's merit or need-based, is often kind of like people get it and it's perceived to be like non-negotiable, and that's where people just end it and they're like, okay, I've got to fill the gap now. But I think there's a lot more, and it's also kind of a black box, right? Like you don't really understand how that number was arrived at because there are all sorts of other levers, like how the school's endowment is doing, yes, or how many other applicants they want to spread it around to that year if there are other worthy people. So I guess this is a long intro here, but
the first question is like, you get that number, like kind of like, what do you do?
You can certainly use that as a point of leverage as then you're talking to other schools. So if you have a scholarship from school A and you actually want to go to school B, then by all means, let school B know, listen, here's who I have a scholarship from. I really do want to go to you, but we're all big boys here.
Right.
And this notion here of like, money's very important to me. So but give them the chance to match.
If you want to be one of our success stories, sign up for a free consultation with a member of our full-time MBA admissions team. Since we've worked with tens of thousands of applicants over the past 2 decades, we can give you our honest opinion on your chances and help you put together your very best application. That is not a sales call, but rather your first session with one of us for free. We can give you a profile evaluation, answer specific questions about the process, review your resume, talk about your school choices, and so much more. Sign up at mbaMission.com/consult. We look forward to working with you. And applicants are usually like a little bit afraid to do that.
Right. Well, I think we should almost go back a few steps because I get asked the question all the time, how can I get a merit scholarship?
Yep.
Right. This is a question that comes up over and over again on free consultations that we do with our clients. And the truth is the most competitive schools are giving out the least amount of money, if any, in merit scholarships, because they don't have to. If you're really eager to get a merit scholarship, you have to look at your own profile and the schools that you're applying to and really think about, do I have a better shot at a merit scholarship at a school that my GMAT score is well above the median, or my grades are well above the median, or I have experiences that are pretty terrific? So you have to factor that in, and you're not going to be able to call up Harvard Business School and say, Indiana gave me a full ride. Can't you match that? Because the answer is no. But Harvard Business School doesn't give out merit anyway. But the point is that you have to kind of know going into this process of where the merit comes from.
That's right. And that should really affect where you end up applying to. Because if a scholarship is really important to you, then you really have to think about, okay, I have to apply to probably a broader range of schools than maybe I thought about originally, because the NPV has suddenly changed with this idea here of Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. Of course, those may be your dream schools. But then I tell people, okay, an opportunity to go to Wharton versus an opportunity to go to Columbia for free. What does your decision point look like?
Yeah, we have a member on our team, Melissa Merchant, who got into Harvard, Stanford, and Kellogg, and she took a full ride at Kellogg because the financial decision-making was important to her. I've always admired that about her, that she made a really thoughtful, pragmatic choice about her future and bet on herself in many ways. So you can, yes, if you want to get, if a scholarship is really critical to you, obviously apply more broadly, recognize that the schools that you're hyper competitive at, maybe it may be more attracted to you, may try and woo you. And Harold already noted, you can try to play one school off the other, and it's not a very dangerous game. Like I've never heard of anyone like they're not rescinding anyone's acceptance. The worst they can do, say no. And
I think a lot of admitted students get very worried to ask because they think it's going to make me look bad. And I'm like, don't worry, they don't have a bulletin board up with like Rachel Beck asked for money to match where she got at other schools, and now we might take away her acceptance. That is not going to happen.
Right, and there's certainly a bigger picture there. And what I mean is the tables have turned. Once you've been accepted, they want you to come. They're really watching yield. One way that they know they can ramp up yield is by giving you some money. And I think, Jeremy, just to get back to something you said, it is a very fluid process. Not only does it change year to year, but it even changed round to round.
Yeah, or even moments where the schools will say, you reach out to school and you say, hey, can you reconsider my offer? You gave me $15,000. Is there anything you can do? And sometimes a school will say, you know what, we just had someone who just declined their offer. That's what $20,000 just ended up back in the. They probably won't give you the dollars, but some money ended up back in the pool. We can give you another $5,000. Like, there's no harm in asking.
That's right. That's right.
And that's really, I think that's like something I think a lot of people miss that I missed when I was an applicant. I don't think I asked for anything. I felt so like lucky to be there.
Exactly. I also think that a lot of applicants don't understand that the merit granting is not fair. Like there's no rhyme or reason to why certain people get merit and other people don't get merit. And I always go back to a story that I saw, where I had a client who was the child of a hedge fund billionaire who got a full ride to a school based on merit, like a very generous merit scholarship. And I had another client who had gotten a full ride at another school, but really wanted this school, came from an immigrant family. Parents were physicians, but ran a convenience store in New Jersey, lost the convenience store due to bankruptcy, et cetera. But he really wanted to go to this school, and they said, nope, we're not giving you any merit pay. So it actually, as the consultant, made no sense to me because this young man was terrific, and it didn't make sense to me why the hedge fund billionaire would be getting a full ride, but they wanted her for whatever reason because they saw real prospect for future donations from that family.
They might have been chasing a GMAT score. They might have been chasing female numbers in the class at that point, things that they might not be able to chase today.
So there's no rhyme or reason. And often we're asked, like, well, how do you crack this? And the answer is, we don't know.
Super opaque.
Truthfully, you ask, and this is what I tell my clients all the time, just go out and ask. And then they'll come back to me and say, thanks for pushing me to do that. They gave me an extra $15,000, or they gave me only an extra $15,000. I'm like, you just bought yourself a car. Yeah. And at the end of the day, maybe it's a car that I would buy, not necessarily what others would buy. But the reality is a single email can yield $1.
I also had a client who was just very, very persistent at Kellogg, and he just kept they kept saying, we appreciate your asking. We'll take you into consideration when we know more about who's accepting scholarships and who won't. Dates back a few years, but and he just stuck with it. He was just like, I think by the time they were like, okay, we have to award some financial aid. If they know you a little bit, if you're being polite, if you are just kind of sticking with it, you may actually get somewhere. So there's the package you're going to get from the school, and I refer to that as like an efficient market. Yeah. It's like that's not where any scratching and clawing can necessarily help. I mean, you can play a school off one other like we're talking about, but everyone's in that pool. Everyone is kind of counting on that and only that. But I do find that there are other channels that people don't even consider.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes your city's civic foundation will have discretionary funds. Your church, your synagogue, your mosque might have the rabbi. At my synagogue had discretionary funds where people. I don't know how much it was, maybe $10,000 a year, where you could just write him a letter and say, hey, so if you can get $1,000 that way, it can help. If you do that 3 or 4 times, it can help. And those are that no one else is in this case is writing my rabbi other than me, right? So that's why it's an inefficient market. And there's an opportunity, I think, to play in that inefficient market, but it just takes a lot of digging. And some applicants don't bother because they think that the world just ends with their school.
That's right. And that's really when the conversation begins. The conversation begins when you get that first acceptance. At that point, you have to start thinking to yourself, okay, how do I actually pay for this? And then be aggressive in thinking about it. Yes, by all means, go and reach out to the school. By all means, go and check with other sources, but then also think strategically. If I immediately want a scholarship that is going to be actually very impactful, you should go to business school in a place that is much cheaper to live than in places much more expensive. University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill is going to be a lot cheaper than New York, that's in Boston, or wherever else it is, Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cost of living can definitely drive. You're basically saying let's look at the big picture. Let's not just look at dollars.
That's right.
Because you can also just reduce your cost of living potentially as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I think a lot of applicants overlook how their employers can help them also. Even though some employers require you to apply in advance for sponsorship, that doesn't mean you can't go to your employer and say, you know what, I'd really like to return here after my MBA. Is there any scholarship that you can give to me to, secure that position, and I'll come back and I'll work for 1-2 years. So don't overlook that as an opportunity.
One of my first clients did that. He went back to his employer. It was a really exciting growing financial services company that ultimately was acquired by another. And he was working kind of as a chief of staff for the COO or the CFO. And the guy just said, yeah, we want you back. That'd be awesome. He was like, great. You guys just paid for my education. And he went back and he enjoyed it.
Yeah. And listen, a lot of the consulting firms, some of the investment bankings do give you the opportunity to get a scholarship from them, for them to pay generally 100%. Then you go back for 2 years. And I fully recognize that that is not a trivial decision to go back for 2 years. At the same point, though, after those 2 years, your life will look substantially different with no debt. With this, already you've been able to pocket quite a bit of money for being paid for those past 2 years. And then if you want to do a startup, or then if you want to do something else, there's a degree of flexibility that you would not have had if you had not gone back to that firm.
And even if you didn't come from finance and you're going into that field, you might get a signing bonus.
Yeah, that's right.
In consulting, you might get some sort of form of signing and moving bonus and et cetera. And it kind of adds up to something.
I think people see the number, like when they open the website and it's like, wow, it's going to cost this much, but they don't do that factoring in that I am going to get a nice signing bonus. I'm going to work over the summer at an internship that's going to pay me. So the numbers start coming down a little bit. Not that they're reasonable, but they might be a little bit more tolerable when you start backing out those numbers as well. And we've talked a lot about this, like business school is an opportunity. And the opportunity is for 16, 17, 18 months up to 2 years, right? A full-time MBA program. Live it, learn it, experience it. You don't want to nickel and dime yourself the whole way through because part of it is the experience. And I think that's something very important to keep in mind. Obviously, you don't want to drown yourself in debt that you can't climb out of it, but it's set up in a way that you should be able to manage that. And that's where you have to be honest with yourself.
That's right. And also, it is a 50-year decision when all's said and done. Right. Most people's career at this point is going to be another 50 years. So you have to say to yourself, over the course of 50 years, what did it mean for me to spend an extra $100,000 on one school versus another school?
One other thing that we haven't talked about is that some schools will have a second round of, like in your second year. It might be, you performed well in school. You are seeking to enter this niche, and we have an alumni who funds an alumnus who funds a scholarship in this area, or even that can happen as part of the application process. Like, you won a full ride at Columbia, did you not?
I had a half ride. Because I did a journalism fellowship for the first year, which I was very thankful for, which included a living stipend, which in today's dollars, probably I couldn't live, but in yesterday's dollars, we could.
But you were a journalist.
I was a
journalist. It was a journalism scholarship for someone with experience in journalism. That's sort of inefficient. There aren't that many journalists applying to school. And so that was available to you. Was it awarded? Were you just given it, or do you have to apply afterwards?
No, you have to apply for the fellowship, and then you're accepted, and then you apply to
and
the
it still exists to this day, correct?
It still exists,
right.
Yes.
So that's another form, which is some schools, not all of them, but this is, I guess, let me back up here. Be in touch with the financial aid office. That's right. Ask them questions. When you get in, call them and say, hey, I got my award. Are there any other scholarships available that I can apply to? Because I know, like Berkeley Haas, for example, has 3 or 4 scholarships that you can apply to as part of their application. One of them is from the individual who founded, I think it was Power Bar or something like that. One of the first, sort of nutritional bars, protein bars, whatever they became. And I don't know how much it's for, but it's a scholarship that's offered. You have to apply for it, within, like, separately from the actual application. Might be a possibility for you. Some schools have like a couple of other scholarships that aren't for everyone. They don't include within the application that could be available to you.
So I think our point is the work doesn't end when you get the acceptance. Like, if you're really needing financial aid or any kind of aid, right? You got to be very proactive. And that might be asking for money, that might be applying to additional scholarships, that might be actually picking up the phone and calling, which a lot of young people today are scared of. They think they can just dash off the email, but if you actually call and talk to someone, they might tell you something that they wouldn't respond in the static email. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, certainly on the other side, if a student makes a commitment to go into social impact, for example, then there are opportunities for some financial support.
At some schools, yeah. And there are even instances, I think a lot of schools do this, where students who are going to conventional MBA jobs and private equity consulting, they'll contribute to a fund that will go to students who are not going into those areas, There also can be, they can be like bursaries and scholarships for people who are even working on entrepreneurial ideas during the summer.
That's right.
Exactly.
Like not just social impact, but just like, we'll fund you. We'll give you a stipend. It's not going to be massive, but we'll give you a stipend, work on your entrepreneurial idea, or go work at this type of firm, and we'll help support you. You gotta get the whole picture, and not a lot of people do. They get that letter, they see $0 and they're sad, or they see $20,000 and they're like, okay, that helps a little, and that's the end of the story. And then, as you can tell, there's so much more.
I was going to say, a lot of times when a client's like, I only got $20,000, they're like, great, that pays for your New York City rent this year. And if you didn't have to pay for rent, like, wow, that frees up, you really can't control your rent, right? It's within these bounds, but you can control how often you go out to dinner. You can, things like that. So I try to play up the positive side of it, because in my mind, any money is honey, right? That's important.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Listen, I just want to get back to one point here, which is this notion of there is scholarships available to practically everyone, but you have to find the right school. And depending on who you are, even if you go to a school that's number 10, 12, even 20, in, we'll call it some rough ranking, and you get a full scholarship to that school, that is life-changing for you. And the reality is yes, top ranking is very important, but the entire equation changes again if you get a free ride to some school that will get you the job that you want. And there are examples of such schools, and do your free 30-minute consultation with me, and I will tell you what they are. And there's the Tillman Scholarship.
Right. If you are from certain countries, there are country-based sponsorships for a lot of Middle Eastern applicants. Other countries. I mean, even the UK will send people abroad, or a Fulbright scholarship potentially for someone.
Right, and applicants, before they even apply, should seek out those. Like, I believe in Germany and Poland, there are scholarships that you can get money toward your MBA, but you have to apply as you're applying for the MBA. Like, you can't get in and then apply for it. You get notified of that as you're in the application process. So I think our point is sometimes you can't wait until you have decision in hand. You have to put in these applications ahead of time so you're in line.
Right. And then also, in addition to that, like there are some random ones. Like I had an applicant whose parents' employer had a stipend for education for their kids. Like, again, you gotta keep being creative. If it's important to you to graduate debt free, like debt free can be tough sometimes, but or for most people, but still, like if you can make, with a little tenacity, you can make a significant difference in your ultimate bill. And then there is, finally, that's the other constant. There are student loans. You can spend your personal resources, and there are student loans.
If you are accepted at Harvard Business School and then you ask for a scholarship, they will send you a lot of information about a student loan, because the reality is the student loan, the ROI on a student loan is very, very high for business school.
I saw something, I don't know how accurate this is anymore, this was a couple of years ago. The default rate on Stanford Business School student loans was, I think they'd had 1 in 20 years. Like, basically what it said is every single person who took out a student loan paid it back. You're not going to be. That evidence would say that if you want to go to Stanford Business School, and I'm sure those numbers are similar for Harvard and for other top schools, they probably go down a little bit as you get outside the top 10, but are probably still comparable.
A point I wanted to make is, as you're filling out your paperwork for financial aid or anything, like Columbia Business School in the actual application asks you, how are you going to finance the MBA? Which I think is the number one question I get for the Columbia application. People get very worried, like, if I answer this honestly, am I not going to get merit scholarship? And through my 14 years of doing this, I've never seen a correlation between what they put down and who gets merit. So people should know that. But you have to be honest. Like, if you need the money to pay for school, then you have to be honest in your financial aid application of what you really need, what your assets are really worth, et cetera. There's no skirting it, right? You're applying for loans. So I think that's something important to keep in mind. There is a lot to cover, and I think a lot of people don't really think about it until it's almost not too late, but like almost too late. They think it's kind of the doom and gloom. Oh, I didn't get the money I wanted. But there are pathways. Don't worry. And by the way, when people ask and then they get money, it's like hitting the lotto.
That's right.
Like, I had a client last year who had gotten into Macombs and UCLA with a full year scholarship. So we'd only have to pay for the second year. And he didn't get it for Darden. And a good point was he was going to the admitted students weekend at Darden, which was his first choice. And I said, schedule a meeting with someone in admissions and make your case. And he did. And on Monday morning, he got the match to UCLA and Macombs.
And I would say one other thing, if you find yourself on the wait list or something like that, it's not like you can't get a scholarship. Like, oh, well, they probably have limited interest in me because I'm on the wait list, so I guess I'm not in scholarship consideration. No, they're still evaluating their class, and they let you in. They'll evaluate you objectively for financial aid. It's like, you still have merit. They're accepting the class. So I've seen applicants who've been on the wait list and have gotten financial aid.
I'm going to give the counter to that, though. Sometimes if you're on the wait list and you make the point during a conversation with an admissions officer, which happens a lot when you're on the wait list, where you have the catch-up call, if you say, I don't need any aid, I don't need any merit, that can bump you. I had that happen this past spring where my client said, I can pay for this MBA, and she did get in days later. So that can be a strategy also. I know we're talking about people who want to get money, but it also could be a strategy on the other side.
Right. And I think one thing you sort of alluded to already, although you said the other thing as well. You said go when you're there, go and enjoy yourself, but you can live frugally. Like I lived in such a frugal way when I was in school, and it's so comical in hindsight. Like I was like, I'm only here for 2 years. I'm not buying a dining room table or chairs. I'm just gonna have to give them away in 2 years. I had a bed and a shelf. I mean, it was ridiculous. I didn't go on I love skiing so much. It's like my favorite thing to do. I didn't go on the ski trip either year. Like these aren't major sacrifices in life.
Or you bring your lunch every day so you can go on the trips and do those kinds of things. I was talking to a client last night about this exact topic. She started business school and was very nervous about the cost of it all. And I said, there are ways that you can save so you get to do all the fun stuff and you don't feel guilty about it at all.
Awesome. I think we've covered a lot of ground.
I think we have.
This is great.
Listen, but my final point will be ask for money. It's too important. Go out there and ask for money.
Sounds
good. We can leave it there.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching us. Exciting news! You can now access On Track by mbaMission for free. Take our 2-minute onboarding questionnaire to personalize your learning path. Choose the free plan, and you'll have unlimited access to our complete modules on MBA application timelines, standardized testing, your professional background, community leadership, school selection, and more. You'll also get access to select lessons from our brainstorming, personal statement, essay, resume, and recommendation modules. It's a great introduction to the On Track platform and will help you jumpstart the MBA application process. Get started today at ontrack.mbamission.com.